Hey there. Good afternoon. Just barely afternoon, 1 minute, so I can legally say it is 1 minute after the noon hour on January 18th, Saturday, 2025. Welcome. I can see you guys filing in. It's great to have you here today. Wonderful. Super excited about today's program. I always am. And I'll tell you, I have so many things to talk about that I love that. I have so many things I want to talk about. I'm like, oh, I'm not going to be able to talk about that for 2 weeks. But new things always popping up. But today we're going to continue on with chronic fatigue syndrome. So I'm going to do a brief intro of myself for those who might be seeing this for the first time. And then we'll just dig in. I'm going to try to make the most of my time this time and not get carried away off on tangents. So anyway, this is Wondrous Roots, your health from the ground up. My name is Becky Montrone. We have a business here in Keene called Wondrous Roots. I am an holistic healthcare practitioner with a degree in holistic nutrition. I'm also an herbalist. So I, in the tradition of my compounding pharmacist father and his father before him, kind of just got the bug to want to know how to create medicines, but I do mine using, not using pharmaceuticals, but using botanicals. So do a lot of work here when I work with clients and make recommendations here on the floor of our shop with things that aren't botanicals, but are nutrients, amino acids, vitamins, minerals, you name it. So we have a practice. The practice here is open 9:30 to 5, Monday through Friday. And we have an open shop that is open to the public. And I also meet with clients in private consultation that could be either in person here locally or via Zoom, what do they call that? Telehealth or whatever. But I was doing that long before on Skype, long before COVID hit, and because I have clients all over the place, all over this country and some even out of this country. So distance is never a factor when it comes to somebody wanting to work with me. And when someone does work with me, I offer a one-time fee, kind of like a membership, a Wondrous Roots membership of $250. Our first visit includes a lengthy visit of about 90 minutes. And then after that, I follow my clients without charging for follow-up. And I try to do that to make myself as accessible as possible and not to have to worry about if I'm following up with people via email or whatever. You just have access to my brain once you are established. If you want to make an appointment just to see if you feel comfortable working with me, I do offer a meet and greet as well for $50 of 30 minutes. And if you decide you want to go on and work in greater depth, that $50 would go towards your one-time fee of $250. So I hope that is clear. Our number here is 603-439-2603. We're located on the 3rd floor of the Miller Forge building on Roxbury Street, which is one of the main drags off Central Square in Keene. And we have free parking, plenty of it, and elevator access as well. Again, we are open to the public. So pop on up and introduce yourself if you haven't already, see what we're all about. I will say, I've decided to close for Monday for the inauguration of our 47th president, which I'm very excited about, and I don't want to miss any of the ceremony and any of the festivities and events going on and televised over the day. So that it is already a federal holiday makes it convenient, but we will be closed this Monday. Okay. So before I get into my topic, I said I wasn't going to go off on tangents, but I do, and those of you who get my newsletter, I introduced a really nice work by Shanna Hazelrig, who is a woman in our community here in the Monadnock region, and she is a student studying holistic health, getting her bachelor's degree in holistic nutrition. She's a busy mom and wife. She has 4 boys at home, and she is diligently studying, and she's really put together a wonderful tool. I'm going to grab it and just show it to you. Hang on. So these are cards you can see them in my newsletter and I'll show you to that, but she's put a lot of information in a really handy deck of cards. Like for instance, she's got on rosemary here. So on the front page, she has key elements, vitamins A, B6, B9, C, calcium, iron, magnesium, manganese, flavonoids, blah, blah, blah. And then medicinal uses, and the top medicinal uses, for instance, neuroprotective, improves concentration and memory, enhances the uptake of oxygen to the body, making rosemary a useful mild stimulant, contains high levels of antioxidants, joint pain or damage, digestive aid. Okay, so there's that type of thing. And then she has like your major groups of nutrients. Like this particular one is electrolytes. So she has what they are. They're minerals that carry an electrical charge, blah, 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 where they're found. And a couple of examples are copper and phosphorus. Then she also has this type of a card, which talks about different health issues and the herbs that are used for those. So for example, adrenal fatigue, vervain, lemon balm, catnip, red clover, red raspberry, parsley, cleavers. It's very clever. It's like a book in a deck of cards. And she did this as a project for her work. And she is selling them to finance her education, to her continued education as she continues on towards getting her degree. So just going to share my screen for a minute. Whoops, share this part. Share. And let me see, where's my, oh yeah, it's right here. Should be able to see that. So anyway, Shanna says, I'm a mother of 4 boys and I'm currently working in my 3rd year at the American College of Healthcare Sciences for my BS in holistic nutrition. I have a huge passion for cooking. My young boys like to watch me in the kitchen and would often ask, what is this herb good for? As I am loading up our dinner with fresh thyme, rosemary, chives, etc. It occurred to me that people need to know this stuff. People need to think of culinary herbs as, people tend to think of culinary herbs as flavorings. I've talked about that many times, but they are so much more than that. So it began over the course of 2 years through assignments and research. I began my notebook for the medicinal plant card deck to help me pay for my schooling. This is my first collection to share with the aspiring herbalist, the gardener, the avid tea drinker, and the chef. I only wish to inspire and educate you alongside your health journey with love and passion. Shanna Hazelbriggs. So again, all the proceeds, if you order these, you can go right there to my website and see this deck. And all of the proceeds from these sales go directly to Shanna to finance her education. So I'm just helping her out by putting a really quality product in my shop and on my website, but also supporting her as I would any aspiring person working hard to get their education. We need more of us. We need more of us. So all the best to Shanna. Okay. And then see, I'll stop my share for a minute. Well, I might as well just go on because I said I just wanted to. You can also reach out to me on my websites, both of them, shopwondrousroots.com, wondrousroots.org, and go to contact us. That those messages are designed to, they're put together so that they feed right to my private email. And I'm the one who sees them. I'm the one who answers them. So don't hesitate to reach out to me. If you want to do that, you can see where you would do that, like something like that. Right? We just put in blah, 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 blah. It comes right to me. Okay. And so this is my page. I did kind of make a little bit of a change here on up here at my navigation bar rather than research files, which kind of sounds a little weird, maybe a little misleading. I just put learn, right? So, and I'm adding to them all the time. I just started one, which I've put basically nothing on, but as I want to put something up, I'm just starting the page and coming back to it. Hemochromatosis, iron overload, we'll be talking about that. And because that affects more people than you think. And Dr. Mercola came out with an article just this past week about iron overload. So I wanted to put that up. So I said, I'll just start the page. But I have a lot more to say about that. I have a lot more information in my files. I just haven't done that page yet. Another page I just put up is Okay, vaccinations. All right, I have so many files on this, and I just haven't built this yet because it's so extensive. But I have a lot to say. There's a lot of science about and a lot of confusion surrounding, and I'm talking about regular vaccinations. I'm not even talking about the COVID vaccine. I'm just talking about vaccinations in general. And what my little intro here from the early days of vaccination, a sound science in itself, getting a little bit of something and building immunity to avoid getting a lot of something, to today, we have hurtled over the edge of help to harm. Learn more about the lack of accountability when it comes to the vaccination industry, the lack of safety studies and data, and the harm these heavily pushed drugs can do to you and your family. Want to get vaccinated? At least go into the doctor's office armed with the facts. So I'll be putting, this will be a very long page eventually. And again, really hoping that Bobby Kennedy Jr. will get his position, as he's been appointed to the Trump cabinet for head of human health services, because what he wants to do with vaccinations is not outlaw them. Certainly would like to not see them mandatory for education or any other purpose, but also make the pharmaceutical industry have to stand up and meet the requirements of other drug research, which it does not have to do at this point in time. So anyway, that's coming. So back to chronic fatigue and fibromyalgia. So again, chronic fatigue, if you missed the first one video, you can go back and catch up right there from January, a couple of weeks, 2 weeks ago. But I kind of got really bogged down in nicotine because I talked about nicotine and long COVID, but also how it applies to helping with myalgic encephalitis, chronic fatigue syndrome, and fibromyalgia. But we really got kind of lost in that, and the time just went. So I'm not going to go back over that. But again, this is an extreme form of fatigue that plagues many people. It is misunderstood. It's hard to diagnose. It's hard to treat. It's difficult to treat. And people with this problem tend to come to be seen maybe by their family, by their friends, by their employers, by their doctors as just, oh no, here she comes or here he comes, because it just affects their lives in so many ways. And it can be really very, it can be really a bad thing. You kind of get the rap of, oh, she's always sick, or she's always tired, or he's always tired, or he's missed so much work. And so it needs to be addressed, and people need to know about it. And I need to know as a practitioner how best to help people with this problem. And this kind of was all spurred by a new client, a relatively new client I've had within the past 6 weeks, I would say. And she has a very severe case. She is, I would say, in her 40s now, if I remember correctly, but she's, a full-fledged adult. And this began when she was 16. And she managed to go to college. She's got a very high-tech job. She does a lot of travel, but that she does it is really quite remarkable. And she's tried a lot of different things over the years. And so what I tried to do was really, for myself as a practitioner, kind of delve in as deeply as I could to look at all the different things that might be used to be of help. And of course, those of you who know me, have known and worked with me for a while, know or followed me or heard me speak, I call myself the mitochondriac. Mitochondrial energy is a chief, if not the chief, cornerstone of health, because that's your basic cellular energy to all your cells. So when mitochondrial energy falls, and it starts waning, even for those of us with healthy mitochondrial energy, that starts to fall off around age 30. And that puts us on this road to dusty death, really, when you think about it. So when mitochondria is energy and activity is impaired due to an illness, it hits us all over. And so super, super important. Again, if you want to participate, you can raise your hand. I'll call on you and you can speak. If you want to type, you can go to the chat, or you can go to the Q&A. All right. So anyway, I wanted to go to this page in particular, thiamine, which is vitamin B1, and riboflavin, which is vitamin B2. But I'm going to this page in particular to kick this off because today, because of it's kind of good explanation of the mitochondrial aspect of things. So thiamine and riboflavin for chronic fatigue. And this goes through a man who was treated and blah, 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 blah. And you can go back and read that. I'm just not going to take up, I'm just going to try to hop along here as I can. Here we go. This is what I kind of wanted to get at this right now. Clues for recognizing mitochondrial distress. Reading this case, I am both heartened and frustrated, says the author, who is actually a practitioner by Chandler Mars, PhD. Or maybe not a practitioner, but anyway, he's, you know, schooled in this significantly. I am heartened that these physicians continue to pursue options even 3 years out. Most patients, now get this, with chronic fatigue languish indefinitely. I'm also encouraged that they took the effort not only follow up at 5 years, but also to publish the case study. It is infrequent that these cases are published. I am frustrated, however, that it took so long to recognize what should have been obvious immediately, and if not obvious, at least automatically ruled out as a part of good medical care. In this case, there were significant clues from the onset that mitochondrial issues were present. Firstly, fatigue is the cardinal symptom of mitochondrial distress. There is no clearer symptom of mitochondrial distress than profound and unremitting fatigue. The primary responsibility of mitochondria is to produce cellular energy. When they cannot produce sufficient cellular energy, resources are reallocated to survival functions. All other functions become less important, and fatigue envelops the person. Fatigue is a mitochondrial survival mechanism. Isn't that interesting? Fatigue tells us that the mitochondria are struggling. It does not tell us why, but it does tell us that there is something causing distress and that there is insufficient energy to resolve the problem. So interesting, right? You're like, chronic fatigue syndrome gives me chronic fatigue. The fatigue is actually trying to support you. Fatigue is there to take the load off. Secondly, when there are a multitude of seemingly unrelated symptoms, right? The easiest consideration is mitochondrial distress. So this author is saying, you know, that should be the first tip off. When you have a multitude of seemingly unrelated symptoms, the not so wondrous root, the easiest consideration would be mitochondrial distress. Mitochondrial disorders are marked by their variability. Because the mitochondria supply energy and maintain several functions for the entirety of the organism, for every tissue and organ, when they are distressed, symptoms appear all over the body, including the brain and the autonomic system. So we talked about the mitochondria a lot. I talked about the mitochondria a lot during the Alzheimer's disease 4-part series. Right? Because that goes missing. Methylene blue. How does that work? That works, and it's so great because it goes to the brain. It favors the brain first for mitochondrial energy by increasing mitochondrial energy by donating electrons to the mitochondrial chain complex. So again, this is review for a lot of you who are always here with me. So I hope that, you know, and one thing builds on the other. Okay. Because the mitochondria supply energy and maintain, yes, survival functions for the entirety of the organism, for every tissue and organ, and when they are distressed, symptoms appear all over the body, including the brain and the autonomic system. Again, this is an easy clue to recognize if one is looking. Whenever someone has a wide variety of seemingly disparate, disconnected, and difficult to diagnose symptoms that may wax and wane, think mitochondria. Finally, and perhaps the easiest clue to recognize, this young man underwent a significant trauma just 6 months prior to the onset of the fatigue. Now, I talked about that last week, and I've talked about that before. Somebody who, it's like, do you remember something that happened? Did you have an illness? Did you have an accident? Did you have a vaccination? Did something happen around that time that you can remember? Super important. This sort of trauma necessitated not only huge amounts of energy to maintain the requisite inflammatory and immune responses enacted for survival, but it required a cocktail of mitochondrial damaging medications as well. Even if he did not have genetic predispositions to mitochondrial disease, the trauma itself, absent proper nutrient support, would initiate mitochondria damaging cascades. So although he had markers for mitochondrial disease, they were likely to some degree latent, but fully fomented by the trauma of the illness. This was a clue, or that should have, one that should have initiated some digging. It did not. And here was a young man, 30 years old, who 6 months after surviving infective endocarditis of the native valve that necessitated not only the use of some pretty powerful antibiotics, but also an aortic valve replacement and oral anticoagulation therapy, developed profound and unremitting fatigue. So that was his event. Several years and conventional treatments later, physicians considered the mitochondria and the prospect that mitochondrial damage might be behind the fatigue and other symptoms. Mitochondrial testing ensued, and upon confirmation, treatment with vitamins 300 milligrams of B1 and 300 milligrams of B2 commenced. Within a month, there was a significant improvement that was maintained at the 5-year follow-up. Effectively, vitamins treated what medicine could not. And that is really, we're going to get more into the riboflavin and the thiamine. But in this man's case, because we've got a slew of nutrients to combine, to choose from, to combine, to mix and match. In this man's case, it was those 2 B vitamins that were used. So don't be overwhelmed if this is you, that this means you're going to be on a list a mile long, that you have to use everything. You likely don't. And that's the exciting thing, but we've got to get at the root, which is the mitochondria. We're going to be looking at several different things that affect the mitochondria in different ways. Chronic fatigue syndrome has become increasing common catch-all diagnosis. The fatigue is debilitating, persisting, does not resolve with sleep. Long-standing fatigue that did not impaired in short-term memory and concentration, headache behind the eyes, the back of the head, post-exertional malaise that lasted more than 24 hours, dry eyes, slow digestion with postprandial fullness. You just feel full hours after you eat. Raynaud's phenomenon, the poor circulation in the hand in the cold winter months. Anyway, go back down here. Treating distressed mitochondria. The most successful treatments for mitochondria, even genetically impaired mitochondria, so people with mitochondrial impairment from birth genetically, involve supplemented nutrients and dietary modification. The primary objective is to supply maximal energy to organs and tissues and reduce energy losses. This can only be achieved via food and nutrient supplements. In other words, those are the tools. You can't do that, with other forms of health therapies. So we would most commonly think of medications. I would actually have to reserve judgment there and think that there might be ways that things like acupuncture increase mitochondrial energy. I'll bet that that's true. So I'm just going to say that might not be completely exclusive, nutrients and supplements, but nutrient supplements. But, oh, and here's another good point. I said I wouldn't go off on a tangent, and here I go. But I had a client asking me, she said that she was very concerned about her brain because she's forgetting things. She doesn't think she's ever had that great a memory kind of thing. So she was going to go and have a full entire brain scan to see if there's something serious going on, mini strokes, Alzheimer's, you name it. And yet this particular client, and I understand her point of view. She prefers as much as possible to get her nutrients through foods rather than supplements. And I was telling her, about different supplements for the brain. And she was saying, well, she said, aren't you a nutritionist? Like, doesn't that mean food? Well, it does, but I use nutrients in what we call an orthomolecular manner, which is we're using them therapeutically. And if you have something like this, you can eat all the foods you want that contain vitamin B1 and B2, and you're not going to get a therapeutic result. So she said, I just feel, I hate it that I have to swallow pills in order to, address this kind of thing. And I said, well, I have to say, I'm thrilled that I can take pills to address this kind of thing. I'm ecstatic that I have the access to therapeutic nutrients that can prevent me from getting the Alzheimer's disease my mother had. I couldn't be more thankful. So to me, it's not a burden, it's a blessing. Give me all the pills it takes to do that. I will gladly swallow them. So anyway, yes, so we're using these things we're using them in therapeutic levels. Now, that doesn't mean necessarily more. Last week, we talked about niacinamide briefly, vitamin B3, and its striking effect on obesity, but only at low dose. So, and that's working through the mitochondria in a very dramatic way. So it doesn't mean, more is better. It means the right doses for the individual, for whatever particular condition we might be addressing. Therefore, before beginning a patient on essentially useless and potentially damaging medications, would it not be more prudent to ascertain if the patient is getting sufficient mitochondrial nutrients and supplement accordingly? It would be. Not only that, if we assess mitochondrial health and by association nutrient intake and capacity, it would save the patient years of suffering and potentially prevent the more permanent symptoms like neuropathies that can develop and then be hard to reverse. Why thiamine and riboflavin? Both are critical to mitochondrial function. Thiamine-dependent enzymes sit atop every entry point two, and at various junctions throughout the Krebs citric cycle. Without thiamine, everything about the production of cellular energy, ATP, adenosine triphosphate, grinds to a halt. So I've talked about thiamine, vitamin B1 before, most prominently as benfotiamine for neuropathy. Very good to get in there to the nerve cells. It's a fat-soluble form of thiamine, but I am more intrigued for the brain and for this problem with something called allithiamine, or in the United States, lipothiamine, which really gets to the brain mitochondria very nicely. And so I've started adding 50 milligrams along with my 50 milligrams daily of niacinamide three times a day, 50 milligrams. I'm doing a 50 milligram tablet of lipothiamine as well. Sort of surrounding reading this type of material recently. Without thiamine, everything about the production of cellular energy grinds to a halt. Fatigue is just the tip of the iceberg with insufficient thiamine. Thiamine therapy, there's a whole book out on thiamine, vitamin B1, which is what this is, and Parkinson's disease. And thiamine is, especially if somebody has a drinking issue and drinks a lot of alcohol, thiamine is very, like magnesium, becomes very depleted. My phone's ringing, just ignore that. It'll go 4 rings and we'll be done. Sorry about that. Anyway, just a little side note there. Similarly, riboflavin is critical for a number of enzymes within the mitochondria and to the transport of electrons throughout the cycle. I take 400 extra milligrams of riboflavin a day because of my MTHFR defect in the particular form of it. I require more riboflavin. Now, let me tell you something. I'm getting off on another tangent, but I got really irritated this past week on one particular day with two people whose doctors told them to stop certain of the supplements I told them to take. Now, the first one is a woman with endometriosis, and her doctor, her PCP, okay, right there, not somebody specialist talking to her about endometriosis, but her PCP asked her not to take serrapeptase, which has been shown to digest a proteolytic enzyme that digests the adhesions associated in the scar tissue associated with endometriosis, and glutathione. Asked me not to take them. My client emailed, could she return the order she had just placed because she hadn't opened them? And her doctor asked her not to take them. I was livid. The doctor clearly knows nothing about serrapeptase or glutathione, nothing, not one thing, but asks the client, her patient, not to take them, thereby restricting very valuable health therapy, very valuable health help, right? Why? Well, I just don't know anything about it. I'm not comfortable. You know, that's my thing is I don't know anything about it. Just don't take them. I've never heard of those before. So please don't take them. So another client emailed me the same day that she noticed that her urine was bright yellow when she takes her Thorne multivitamin. That's the B2. That's the riboflavin. She told her doctor about it, and the doctor said, oh, stop taking it. That shows that you're getting too much B vitamin. No, you're not getting too much. I don't care if you get a little bit. Your urine's going to be bright yellow. It's nothing to do with getting too much. So again, I mean, it's just absolutely mind-blowing to me. I had another client, yes, this was just a few weeks ago. She has a son with who's 20 years old, who has ADD, ADHD, and has a hard time, struggles at his work and everything. And so I recommended to her that he take, you know, a good multivitamin, Thorne basic nutrients 2 per day with all the B vitamins, blah, 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 blah. Lithium orotate, extra B12, lithium orotate to make sure you're getting the B vitamins, and also because lithium orotate, low dose lithium mineral, trace mineral, is excellent for ADD, ADHD. So she goes to her PCP, who tells her, oh, don't have him take lithium. That's the worst thing. So this PCP is obviously thinking that I have him on prescription lithium, which of course I don't have him on prescription lithium. I'm not a doctor, and prescription lithium is totally different. It's high dose and it comes with many side effects, but it's very vital for people with bipolar disease. But don't, he can't take that. So, you know, I'm telling my clients now, if you have a doctor who tells you not to do something I've recommended you do, please let me know. And please also let them know to call me if they have questions. But don't just stop without getting my side of things if that happens, because I just find this to be tragic. Withholding proper tools that work, that are good for overall health, that are vital for people, and saying just don't take them. Terrible, terrible. Anyway. Okay, so going from that one, very interesting too, very encouraging that all this gentleman did was take those 2 nutrients and things improved mightily. So I had another client this Friday who had seen my program from last week, and I sent her kind of basically the whole gamut of things that I have, my client that I've talked about earlier, that I came up with all of this for. And I have her on a lot of things just so we can hit every base. And she's up for that. And she's tried this thing and then tried that thing and then tried this, you know, many different things, and still hasn't gotten where she wants to go. So in her case, and she was open for it, we're doing like a ton of things. So we're hitting it from every angle and just going to ride for a month or so, see where that takes us, and then adjust. But not everybody has to do it that way. You might say, I want to add in the nicotine patch and some riboflavin and thiamine and see how I feel. most people with chronic fatigue syndrome have been dealing with this for a very long time. See how that goes, and then see what else maybe we can piggyback on top of that or switch out. So everybody's, for everybody, it would be different. But again, we talked about that, mitochondrial energy. So some of the mitochondrial energy things are, again, L-carnitine. I'm going to breeze through these. You can go back and read more. It's all there for you to delve in and look at further, but different forms of carnitine. And we're quoting somebody, so we'll come back to those. L-carnitine, acetyl L-carnitine, different forms of the same amino acid, carnitine, are similar but different. While self-hacked reports that both can help with fatigue, L-carnitine is the bigger energy enhancer. It helps the body convert fat into energy by transporting fatty acids to the mitochondria, and has strong antioxidant properties as well. So maybe you're a person with chronic fatigue syndrome and you've also struggled with your weight. L-carnitine might be a really good option there. L-carnitine is very excellent for the muscles. So people who are training will often stack L-carnitine somewhere in their supplement stack for building muscle. So L-carnitine is really great for that. And then also taking your fatty acids, taking the nutrients, because this seems to be a big problem with chronic fatigue syndrome, is that you cannot use your nutrients properly. The body cannot use its oxygen properly to feed the mitochondria. And that's where these nutrients are coming in to give assistance in those areas. According to No, who is, that's really great if you're an expert on something, if your name is No, right? But anyway, according to this person, No. Low L-carnitine levels inevitably result in reduced fatty acid metabolism. That's important because our mitochondria love fatty acids. 60 to 70% of of the energy produced by our mitochondria comes from metabolizing fatty acids, which shows the importance of fatty acids, right? So omega-3, omega-7, omega-5, omega-6, but only from healthy sources, not the overabundance of harmful inflammatory omega-6s. I'm going to do another whole page on fatty acids and a program on that. We've talked about various ones, but just one dedicated to that. That'll be fun. L-carnitine also, interestingly enough, helps to mop up lactate, a byproduct of anaerobic metabolism, which may be causing a lot of trouble in this syndrome, that lactic acid buildup. Anyway, acetyl L-carnitine, on the other hand, boosts acetylcholine and is able to get through the blood-brain barrier. So you would think of L-carnitine more for the body, not that the brain isn't the body, but the muscles and all of that, the heart. And then acetyl L-carnitine more for that mitochondrial energy to the brain. It appears to be more effective at improving mental clarity, reducing mental fatigue, rather than physical fatigue, improving mood, and protecting the neurons in the brain. Also an antidote for depression. If you have chronic fatigue syndrome, I promise you, you are depressed. As a byproduct of the lowered mitochondrial energy, but also, and its effect on your neurotransmitters, but also because you have chronic fatigue syndrome, what is more depressing? It says here, acetyl carnitine is also being enthusiastically studied in depression. A 2018 two-center study, as well as other studies, have found decreased acetyl L-carnitine levels in the brains of people with depression. The more severe the depression, the greater the LAC reductions. Greater LAC reductions were also found in women who had experienced childhood trauma. Oh, this is so interesting because the woman client I was talking with yesterday definitely dates her chronic fatigue back to childhood trauma, a childhood full of trauma. And we went, and she also has muscle fatigue. So we went with the L-carnitine and not the acetyl L-carnitine, but we tried a few different things and we're just going to keep working on it. But it would be interesting to see how she feels with the things we added in. She was already working with me and doing certain things like glutathione and, other things like that, the B vitamins, whatever. but I mean, general B vitamins and the lithium orotate. But she's another one. We're just going to kind of like see how things go along. Again, this is why I offer a one-time membership fee of $250, which is something you will probably, I don't think you'll find anywhere else on the planet when it comes to holistic healthcare. But this is why, because we're just going to keep working at it. We're going to keep working at it. It's going to take a lot of, meeting together, seeing how things are working, and till we get it just right. The Goldilocks, as someone else has called it, the Goldilocks of the niacinamide dose is how Mercola put it. Anyway, the authors reported that acetyl L-carnitine supplementation induces rapid and lasting antidepressant effects, like effects via epigenetic mechanisms, which dampen down the release of the excitatory neurotransmitter glutamate. Okay, so very interesting. Other things do that as well, dampen down the excitatory neurotransmitter glutamate, like magnesium, especially magnesium L-threonate. Okay, so you can see there are a lot of nutrients we have. There are a lot of players we have here to choose from. Let's go to D-ribose, which is another mitochondrial enhancer. We're going back over the importance of that. You'll see this is all here. So it plays a major role in the pentose phosphate pathway that runs parallel to glycolysis, blah, 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 blah. D-ribose. By bringing purines and pyridamines together, D-ribose provides the underpinnings for important substances such as DNA, RNA, and ATP. D-ribose levels decline during the low oxygen states that may be present in this syndrome. When those conditions are present, cells turn to bringing, they do something, it leaves the AMP washed out, and D-ribose is able to bring it back. Pyrroloquinoline Quinone. No, Pyrroloquinoline. Hang on. This is a really tongue twister. Pyrroloquinoline Quinone. This is something that is a really great mitochondrial generator that I don't use separately. I haven't used separately with people as a separate supplement. It's in a supplement I take as part of a complex. I can't remember which one it is, but you need a low dose of it, but it is a great mitochondrial energy producer. It says here, found that it reduced oxidative stress, decreased inflammation and immune activation, C-reactive protein, interleukin-6, which are inflammatory markers, and appeared to enhance mitochondrial functioning. Another human study suggested PQQ may be able to improve short-term memory, attention, and information processing, all of which could be helpful. So especially if your chronic fatigue syndrome tends to be characterized by brain fog, PQQ can really make a difference for you. And you just need a small amount. I think it's like 2 milligrams a day or something like that. And Pastor Karen is saying here, I can attest to the fact that Rebecca does, and will keep working with you to not only get to the root of your issues, but also to continue to research and try various options until you arrive at the desired results you are looking for and needing. Don't give up on yourself, and Rebecca will not either. Thanks, Karen. That is really great. A great word of, what do I want to say, endorsement. But Karen is, again, I've mentioned her before. She has the very severe case that we finally boiled down not too long ago to fibromyalgia, which is, again, can be part of this whole complex. Not everybody with myalgic encephalitis, chronic fatigue syndrome has fibromyalgia, but it is a common prominent feature, and Karen certainly it is a prominent common feature with that syndrome, and probably I would say most cases of fibromyalgia are related to chronic fatigue syndrome. And no, Karen, I don't know. It was something I stumbled on in my reading, and it wasn't for gut motility. It was just one of these things that did have a good effect there, but I have not come back on it. But I will. I promise I will, and I'll get back to you on it. Okay. Its effects may be significantly enhanced when it's taken with CoQ10. Okay. All right, so let's go to that. Let's go to CoQ10. Let's go to ubiquinol, because that is probably one of the most important when it comes to this issue, a mitochondrial enhancer. Let's see if I have a separate thing on CoQ10. Yeah. CoQ10 are arguably the most important mitochondrial enhancer. CoQ10 carries electrons from one part of the electron transport chain to the other, and it reduces oxidative stress. It's used in a number of diseases. Several studies have found low CoQ10 levels in both of these things, fibromyalgia and chronic fatigue, and several trials suggest it could help. CoQ10 comes in two forms, ubiquinone and ubiquinol. We use ubiquinol. It's best absorbed, is recommended, particularly as we age, because we have a harder time absorbing that. It says it may be taken up to a month for CoQ10 levels to plateau while taking ubiquinol 200 to 300 milligrams a day. It's interesting, ubiquinol, you can take 150 milligrams of ubiquinol to, I read yesterday when I was working with my client, to equal 1,200 milligrams of ubiquinone, which is CoQ10. So those supplements are a bit more expensive, but they go a lot farther than simple CoQ10. Oh yeah, I could have just been here instead of reading that other thing, because I highlighted all these things. I forgot I already did this work. But we just talked about that. Pyrroloquinoline Quinone works better with CoQ10, so they can help each other. Sometimes you can find ubiquinol CoQ10 supplements with PQQ added. I think Life Extension makes one, which makes a lot of sense. Okay, we've talked about palmitoylethanolamide a lot, so I want to go back to magnesium. N-acetylcysteine would be the glutathione factor. Oxaloacetate is found in a supplement called Benagine, which is really anti-cancer and works very well. I don't usually use it with people. It's very expensive, and it does things that that other supplements do, but this particular article says the best mitochondrial supplement. Oxaloacetate, Dr. David Kaufman clearly watches research literature, and he saw blah, 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 found a significant depletion of oxaloacetate, which is huge for stopping the glutamate toxicity. And we were talking about how, D-ribose helps with that. So again, getting at the same kinds of things. It generates NAD+, which plays a major role in many cellular processes. Now, what else generates NAD+? Many things, but the low-dose niacinamide B3, which I'm really excited about. And so for me, I would say I don't have chronic fatigue syndrome, but just for general mitochondrial overall health, right? I'm boosting my NAD+ very effectively there, and the low-dose niacinamide also works with this very important enzyme NAMPT when used at a proper dose, which is kind of like the real trick. So again, a lot of different things we can use. So it plays a role in blah, 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 blah. It's reportedly able to cross the blood-brain barrier and sometimes used as a nootropic, so for enhancing cognitive function. Animal trials suggest it may be activating mitochondrial biogenesis. Dawn, what level of B1 and B2 are good? Mine are B2 6 on a range of 1 to 19, B1 104, B6 20. I don't tend to, Dawn, I don't tend to really pay attention to what people's blood levels are of different vitamins. Blood levels are a little deceiving. and can be a lot deceiving. Like somebody can come back with a serum magnesium that's perfect and be very depleted in their cells with magnesium. So the blood levels of anything tell us what's on the road. They don't tell us what's in the tissues doing their work. So I would not consider, oh, thank you, Jean. I would not consider blood levels to be really very important to figure out what's going on. But if you are in those levels, you know, I wouldn't say the point of increasing the supplementation is to get our blood levels up. But blood levels can tell us some things. Sometimes somebody will have a folate level or a B12 level that's sky high, and the doctor tells them to stop taking the supplements when I say, no, take lithium, because that shows your folate and your B12 are sitting in the bloodstream where they're not doing you any good. They can't do anything for you in the blood. So, so I'm not really big on, I'm not really crazy or very concerned about what people's levels are. Just know that we all need to supplement B vitamins if we want to get them properly. And again, use our lithium orotate in low dose to make sure that we're able to use them. Good question, though. So anyway, if you want to learn more about oxaloacetic acid, I will go to Amazon really quick and just show you what supplement I'm talking about if you want to take a look at it. It's called Benagine. Here it is. It is has to be thermally stabilized with vitamin C. This is a good brand of Benagine, and it has to be taken according to the there's particular ways you have to take Benagine. So again, it's something that I don't gravitate to often. I have used it way back with some people, and I even took it myself at one point in time just because I was reading about how good it is, but I kind of fell off on that one. But that is oxaloacetic acid, and if it's something you want to try and add to your regimen, go right ahead. Okay, let's go down now. We've talked about, you can see here, we talked about carnitine, magnesium. I've talked a lot about magnesium. And so, but to see how that affects all of that, you can go there. And acetylcysteine is going to give you actually more on glutathione. This is the glutathione protocol here for chronic fatigue syndrome. If you want to see that, you know me. If you know me, it's like everybody I work with, virtually every single person I work with is taking glutathione because it is the miracle molecule. And then he's got like what he does for people. Folapro, interesting. B12 folate, again, we're getting at how we make glutathione in the first place. Phosphatidylserine, B12, SAMe, that's all involved in the methylation process here. So he's addressing, when I talk about MTHFR defects, which are very common, it's folate metabolism error, glutathione comes in from that angle. So anyway, you can see more there. And acetylcysteine would be getting at the very same thing because we use an acetylcysteine to boost glutathione levels, but the acetylated form of glutathione is much more bioavailable and longer lasting, and you need much less of it than an acetylcysteine. All right, I was going to get down here to some of the beta-glucan. I never thought about beta-glucan for, oh, okay. I will contact about appointment to discuss the latest issues. Great, Dawn. That's wonderful. And thank you, Jean, for that very nice compliment. Yeast beta-glucan supplementation with multivitamins attenuates cognitive impairments in individuals with this problem, chronic fatigue syndrome. I tend to think I use beta-glucan for people to boost their immune systems. It's a great winter, especially supplement if you tend to be prone to getting sick often, the beta-glucan. And I use it definitely with all my people who have cancer because it is very anti-cancer, the form that I carry, which is grown on on yeast, not on oats, not on mushrooms. Not that there's no value there, but for those problems. And that is actually the form that they were using for this as well, yeast-derived beta-glucan. So here we go. I'm going to read that. This research aimed to examine the potential alleviative effects of beta-glucan administration on fatigue, unrefreshing sleep, anxiety, depression symptoms, and health-related quality of life in ME/CFS. A 36-week unicenter randomized double-blind placebo-controlled trial was conducted in 65 of these patients who were randomly allocated to one of two arms to receive 4 capsules, each one of 250 milligrams beta-glucan, this much vitamin D, this much of B6, this much zinc, or matching placebo only, including only microcrystalline cellulose as an excipient once daily. The findings showed that the beta-glucan supplementation significantly improved cognitive fatigue after the 36-week treatment compared to the baseline. Taken together, this study represents the novel finding that yeast-derived beta-glucan may alleviate cognitive fatigue symptoms in this syndrome. Thus, it offers valuable scientific insights into the potential use of yeast beta-glucan as a nutritional supplement and/or functional food to prevent or reduce cognitive dysfunction in patients with this problem. Further interventions are warranted to validate these findings, but that's another side, Benny. But another use, I honestly had no clue. If somebody had asked me about chronic fatigue up until reading this, I mean, I would never have suggested beta-glucan. Never, never. See? That's why you got to stick with me, because I'm learning all the time, and then I pass it on to you. And that's what makes life so exciting. It's so great to know, we have so much more power than we think we do. We have so much, there is so much to know. And it's all good stuff. It's like stuff that we can be doing where the medical world is telling us we're helpless here. We don't have anything for that. Well, if that doesn't, I'm sorry, I'll put you on an antidepressant so you can cope with at least try to live life with your chronic fatigue syndrome, fibromyalgia. We talked about nicotine. Hormones, I've talked about DHEA. I've done a whole program on DHEA. Here we have a pilot study employing DHEA, dihydroepiandrosterone, in the treatment of chronic fatigue syndrome. Hormone made in the adrenal glands. We start making less of it by age 30. We plummet down pretty quickly, and using DHEA daily is a great anti-aging strategy for a multitude of things, but here we have it in the treatment of chronic fatigue syndrome. And patients with chronic fatigue syndrome frequently associate the disease onset with a period of high physical or emotional stress. Some of you may, that's an important thing to realize. Trauma is not always a car accident. Trauma can be child abuse. Trauma can be a huge emotional upset, such as bankruptcy or losing a dear loved one or going, you name it. Trauma comes in all kinds of wrappings. Okay, alterations in the HPA axis function have been demonstrated, the hypothalamic pituitary adrenal axis. Although cortisol production in patients with CFS is proven to be low, DHEA production has not been measured. DHEA output may be altered in this population. It says here, supplementation with DHEA to chronic fatigue syndrome patients led to a significant reduction in the symptoms of chronic fatigue syndrome. Pain improved by 18%, fatigue decreased by 21%, activities of daily living improved by 8.5%, helplessness decreased by this much, 11%, anxiety decreased by 35%, thinking improved by 26%, memory improved by 17%, and sexual problems improved by 22% over the period of the trial. That's super impressive. Okay. And then pregnenolone, another one. And it's interesting because my client yesterday, we were talking about, she said, what about pregnenolone? Because I showed her the comprehensive list, which I didn't put on my page, but I'll do that later today. And you can see if you were going to use everything, like how would I dose them? When would I take them? And then Pastor Karen again says DHEA has been a huge help to me. Taking it daily works best for me. Yes, because we did try, for some reason, Karen, we tried taking less of it. We thought maybe it was associated with something that I can't remember, but and then you tried taking less and then you went back to more. and you got a better result. So pregnenolone comes just before, okay, here we go, right? Cholesterol, then you get pregnenolone, and then you get pregnenolone, DHEA, a certain form of pregnenolone, and then DHEA. So pregnenolone is one step upward in the hormonal cascade. The beginning, again, is cholesterol, so don't let anybody tell you need to get, the lower your cholesterol, the better, please. Then you don't get any of these other things. But pregnenolone is interesting, and one person said they thought it was like really super, super important. So adding in some pregnenolone could be a really good idea. Taking a little bit of pregnenolone along with your DHEA. Okay, so this is how it works. Pregnenolone steal. If the body becomes stressed for whatever reason, then the production of adrenal hormones is moved away from the anabolic building, healing, and repair hormones to the catabolic stress hormones, such as cortisol. In essence, when sufficiently stressed, pregnenolone is diverted away from making anabolic hormones to making catabolic hormones, essentially cortisol. Consequently, less hormone is available for healing and repair. People with chronic fatigue syndrome are permanently stressed by many factors, not least of which is their inability to live up to their potential, which is such a loss of great, wonderful, like Karen is a pastor. She's like so creative and wonderful, and manages to can like more than, Campbell's soup does during the harvest season, but in spite of it. But when we're not well, we're not at our best, and it takes away from all the wonderful things we can be doing. So we want to be well, and that so many other people can be benefiting from, right? Because that's why. It's not that we're never going to die someday. Of course we are. But the more vital we are, the more useful we are, and the more we have to contribute and to serve our communities and the people around us and our families and you name it. Yeah. This is bad. Hence, chronic fatigue sufferers will likely suffer from pregnenolone steal. That's misspelled. This is bad news, not only because this will mean there's less hormone available for healing and repair, but also because pregnenolone steal worsens the problems of low pregnenolone production and resulting from their poor mitochondrial function. So probably a really good thing to put in there. Inositol, I talked about inositol and in a program I did, and I also was talking about boron, and then I talked about inositol for anxiety, depression, fatigue, blood sugar control, healthy ovarian function, and healthy pregnancy, and wonderful for so many things. And I love inositol. I take 3,000 milligrams morning and night. I absolutely adore it. But here we go. Inositol, like choline, is an important component of phospholipids, the fatty substances which surround all cells in the body. Also, like choline, inositol helps with the transportation of fats and prevents their accumulation in any one site, such as the liver. Inositol plays an important role, because it's a key component of the myelin sheaths that surround the nerves, and also performs a crucial role in maintaining the integrity of the nervous system. So important. Inositol is considered vitamin B8. It's a sugar alcohol that we make ourselves in our body, but we take more of it for, again, therapeutically. Okay, so it's very, very wonderful. More to come, Karen, on fibromyalgia. So these are all nutrients that we can use. Again, I'm going to publish the sheet I did for my client that kind of spurred this whole thing, where we're just going to we're trying basically everything. And she's up for that. But it will give you an idea if you want to, based on what we've talked about here and what you read here, kind of pick and choose. I think I want to try this or that first, and then maybe add on. It'll give you some guidance on how to do that. I also just want to go right back one more time to this article and really encourage you to read this. The low-dose niacinamide has striking anti-obesity effects. It starts out that way. But when you come down here, it talks about this really important NAMPT, and it talks about the dosing, which is very important, which is, I'll see it, I'll know it when I see it. Oops, where are you? It's on this side of the page. Yeah. If you would like a more precise dose, You could use dose of the study 2.5 milligrams per kilogram or 1.3 milligrams per pound of body weight divided into 3 daily doses. So if you're a 150-pound person, you would have about 50 to 60 milligrams 3 times a day. So when I have people who are really heavy, you know, you take your dose and you figure it out. How do you figure out your kilograms? You just take your pounds and you divide by 2, that's your kilograms. You time each kilogram by 2.5 milligrams and kind of figure out your dose. I can always help you do that, but you don't want to get the 500 milligram capsule of niacinamide and pop one of those a day. It's not going to work this way, but it is one of the very best NAD plus raising nutrients when used this way. So anyway, it's all very exciting. You know, we have more power than we know. We have so much control over our health if we just know how, and we can bring people back, like that gentleman that the article was talking about when I started out this program, who after years was able to reverse his situation with riboflavin and thiamine. Thiamine, somebody asked me what doses. Okay, so that's on the okay. The thiamine and the riboflavin. I like riboflavin, 400 milligrams a day in a 1 capsule tablet. I have also a little bit of riboflavin in my multi, but also I like the lipothiamine, the lipothiamine at 50 milligrams rather than a lot of thiamine all at one time. I like the 50 milligrams 3 times a day, getting to the brain. And I can just show you kind of like, let's see, right here, lipothiamine. Right here. I like that one, B1. And it's also got some lipoic acid with it, which is really nice because that's a mitochondrial energy booster as well. So anyway, just kind of wrap this up. If you have questions, get in touch with me. Again, you can reach out to me by going to contact us here, contact on my other website. Just shoot that out. I'll be glad to offer any advice I can. You can certainly reach out to me to make an appointment and become a client here at Wondrous Roots. And again, as you can see, we just work and we don't give up until we get where we want to go. So stop my share so I can say goodbye. Thanks for being with me, everybody. I hope this has been helpful and informative. And thanks, Mel, for that. And everybody for being with me and for all of your encouragement you give me by participating. And we work these things out. And I just continue to hit the books, and I have you to practice on, which is really, really fun. I promise I don't think I've harmed anyone to date that I can remember anyway. So have a great day. Have a wonderful weekend. I am super excited about the events of Monday and inaugurating Donald J. Trump as 47th president. So glad myself. I don't know how everybody else feels, and it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter, but I'm thrilled. He's going to be back in the White House. So thanks again. Be well. And I'll be back next week. Not sure what I'm going to talk about, but I'll have to tell you what happened to my eye after I had COVID and what I found out about the ophthalmologic problems, the eye problems that can be associated with COVID-19 and with the shots. I never had the shots. But anyway, it's kind of a cool personal story. And maybe I'll cover that next week before I get into iron overload. Okay, I'll let you go. Bye.